It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Special guest for you today, Dr. Nurit Weisblatt. She wrote a book called The Techlash and Tech Crisis Communication, How Tech Journalism has changed over the last 4 years. I think you'll be interested. Also, we'll talk about the new features Google's dropping on Pixel phones, bye-bye to cardboard, and what the heck are NFTs? It's all coming up next on Twig.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 601, recorded Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. Wear your dadgum Schnutenpulli. This Week in Google is brought to you by Melissa. Like expired milk, 30% of your customers' data goes bad every year. That's money down the drain. Visit Melissa's developer portal for free access to data quality APIs, demos, and code samples. Freshen up your sour data today with 1,000 records clean free at melissa.com/twit. And by Uber for Business. Right now, for a limited time, receive a $50 voucher when you create your first vouchers campaign and spend $200. Go to uber.com/twig to learn more. And by Cashfly. Give your users the seamless online experience they want. Power your site or app with Cashfly's CDN and be 30% faster than the competition. Learn more at twit.cashfly.com. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show where we talk about the latest news from, well, whatever the hell we want to talk about. Google being one of them. Facebook, Twitter, all the verses. Aunt Pruitt is here from Hands On Photography. Hello, Aunt.
Hello, Mr. Laporte.
Good to see
and
you.
Mr. Jarvis.
JJ's here. Jeff Jarvis. Wait a minute. I got to get my special...
Uh-oh. Take a breath.
Jeff Jarvis is the Leonard Tao Professor for Journalistic Innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York, not to be confused with NYU. No, he's not. Jay Rosen.
No.
Anyway, great to see you, jeffbuzzmachine.com. And I want you to introduce our special guest. Stacy has the day off, and you have brought along a friend, and I thought it'd be good if you introduced her.
The brilliant Dr. Nurit Weisblatt, who is a former tech journalist, former tech PR person, who had wrote a wonderful book, I know because I blurbed it, and even though it includes quotes from me, that aside, that is right up our alley, which is about tech coverage and when it shifted from optimistic to dystopian and moral panic and all that. And she has a great theory about that, which, of course, I'll let her say. But Nurit was a researcher at USC.
Get it right. Yeah, she got it right.
Get it right. She's a Trojan. And her book is coming out March 24, and the book title is...
The Techlash and Tech Crisis Communication. And thank you, Nurit. Welcome to the show. It's nice to have you.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I want to break down your thesis here by starting first with what is the Techlash? What's going on?
Like the definition?
Yeah, I mean, what are we talking about here? The Techlash.
Yeah. So the Techlash is a summary of the past few years where we have this really strong and widespread negative reaction to the growing power and influence of big tech, specifically the large companies here in Silicon Valley. And, we have specific sectors that are more backlash, like social media, and companies that are more backlash, like Facebook, as you can guess. But it's basically being much more critical to the tech industry than before.
And you specifically focus on tech journalism and the way tech journalists have been covering technology, which I'm very interested in. I've been a tech journalist now for several decades. I don't actually, Stacy says I'm not a journalist, right? I'm a tech pundit.
Wait a minute. Easy.
Oh, a long time. Well, it starts, okay, you really want to know? Since the 70s.
Yeah.
So I started writing for Byte Magazine and InfoWorld, and it was downhill from then.
Before or after the Apple II?
after the Apple II, I started writing for Atari magazines, believe it or not, in the 70s. And my first piece in Byte was in the 1984 Macintosh release issue. I reviewed some Macintosh software.
Oh, wow.
And then for InfoWorld, I think I was also doing Mac software at the time, writing about Mac software at the time.
So now I feel
Grandpa
bad that
Leo.
I didn't interview you.
No, you don't need to ask me. I'm just curious. So you did interview a lot of people, including, for some reason, Jeff Jarvis.
For all the best reasons.
all the best reasons. So what was your conclusion? What has tech journalism changed? You call it the evolution of tech journalism. How has it changed?
It changed a lot. So the book, and you're going to love this chapter, Pre-Techlash era, is how I called it.
That's me. Prehistory. You might as well just say ancient times. Okay.
So it's actually starting from the 80s till now to show the difference in the power relations between the tech giants and the media, and the PR practices and how tech journalists used to work. And also, of course, the state of mind that was more utopian than dystopian. And then in the Techlash, which you asked about, is the roots of the change and the characteristics of the coverage.
Yeah, we actually talk about that a lot on this show because I was certainly tech utopian. I was not. I took great pride and pains not to be a flack for the tech companies.
Yeah, you were never a fanboy.
No, I always consider myself representing the user, and often that was in the face of complete mistreatment by the tech industry. But at the same time, and I think you were kind of the same way too, Jeff. I was pretty optimistic. You might still be about, especially the internet.
I still am, but the difference is I think I confess the problem with the optimism is that it left us vulnerable to the manipulation.
Yeah, you're probably right. And of course, I paired up initially with John C. Dvorak, whose whole shtick was tech cynicism. Yeah, like
cranky.
This will never work. That's not. In fact, he got a lot of heat very famously when the Macintosh came out for saying nobody needs a mouse. What's that up? That's stupid. But what I'd learned, but working with John, is generally he was right. About 80% of the time, any new innovation really was stupid. In the long run. so I learned to temper my wide-eyed, I guess Pollyanna-ish look at technology with this.
Right. So there was a shift in what's
cynicism. Yeah.
What's fascinating about Neerut's research is that she pegs, and I'll let her talk about this, but she pegs a moment when it changed.
Oh.
That's what fascinated me. I didn't really get that there was a moment. Over to you, Neerut.
When did the honeymoon end?
November 2016.
Do you have a date?
Wow.
November? What happened? Really?
Wow.
November 2016? I'll have to check my calendar. What happened in November 2016?
Donald Trump became the president.
Oh, okay. So the election
really did shift there.
The election of Trump in November of 2016. How would that affect our coverage of as tech press of technology?
So first, let's say the technology became much more politicized, but we put that aside. The tech people, whether they were journalists or workers in the companies, they were all in the state of reckoning with their influence and asking, how did we get here? And then everybody started to blame the tech platforms for the widespread of misinformation, things like that. And then it all became more critical.
You did content analysis, right? You did analysis of the actual coverage.
So I'm going to share something with you, Nurit. And if you had interviewed me for this book, I would have shared this with you. I wrote this and sent this as a memo to our staff. The memo is called Twit After the Election.
Oh, I never knew this.
Yeah. I don't think I sent it to you. I think I sent it to our on-air hosts and so forth. And in other words, I said, I've been spending a lot of time talking with family, coworkers, friends, and fans about last Tuesday's election and how it might affect what we do and say at Twit. I'm curious, Nurit, if this is consonant with your theory. In other words, what is our responsibility as broadcasters at this time? So I reiterated our mission statement. Twit exists to serve and engage a global community of tech enthusiasts by giving them the information they need to use tech to make their lives better. I say we have a global, smart, and diverse audience. Some in our community are thrilled with the results of the election. Many are not. I don't think we serve anyone by complaining about how it turned out or looking for fault or blame. So I didn't want us to say, oh, it's the fault of big tech for the result. Politics per se is not our beat and not why our community comes to us. I suggest we try to stick to tech as much as possible. Then a lot of this was, how do we incorporate our political feelings and beliefs into what we talk about as tech journalists?
And how do we keep Jarvis from getting rid of all of our listeners?
Well, I should have sent this to you, Jeff. I propose we address politics only when there is a technology angle and it's appropriate to the show. Does Facebook have an obligation? This is 2016. Does Facebook have an obligation to block fake news? What was the role of Twitter in Trump's election? Are Trump's policies good or bad for Silicon Valley? Twig and Twit will inevitably broach these subjects. We did during Obama's administration. We'll continue to do so now. And then I also addressed conspiracy theory, even at this time. There's one particularly thorny area where answers are not always so easily distinguishing fact from fiction from faith. So I talked about climate. We have an audience and a voice. We do have a responsibility not to maintain a false neutrality in one case. There's a clear, bright line which we can never cross. And I said racism, discrimination, sexual preference, gender choice, and all of those things. So I guess agree with what you are saying, Nurit, is I did see the election as something that we had to consider as a tech journalistic entity.
So more than that, and more than the content analysis that Jeff mentioned, what I've done, I'm a big data analytics kind of a girl. So I looked at the big tech companies and their peaks during the year, and I analyzed those peaks of coverage, like the biggest stories they have during the years. And in what I call pre-Techlash, most of them were innovation journalism or product journalism. Right. And by that I mean product launches, either software or hardware.
We did a lot of that. Yep.
And a lot of business reporting. So of course, all the IPOs and M&As and things like that. So that was the normal big headlines in the tech news. But when I analyzed 2017, most peaks were negative, tech scandals, and most of them were like fake news after the Las Vegas shooting, which involves Twitter, Google, and Facebook. And we had the Russian interference and all the investigations starting in Congress. So all those headlines were not there before, right? So we had investigations and fines and privacy issues, and all of them were in the tech coverage all the time. But they were less visible.
Right.
Because there was less coverage of those issues. And the shift that I'm showing in the book is that since 2017, those are the salient the major stories in the tech coverage.
I think that's fair. I'm looking at our rundowns from late 2016 and early 2017. I have a record of every show we've done. And I think that's actually fair, that it did somewhat change our kind of a focus. But in my defense, I always felt a little guilty about just talking about shiny things. And I think that happened earlier for me because I started to become aware of the climate consequences of filling landfills with, 2-year-old smartphones. And so I think we kind of tried to downplay that. I certainly addressed those issues in the years before that. But I think you're exactly right. I think that we did shift. Our coverage became less about what's the next new thing and what's the big IPO, and more about how tech influences society. And I think you're right, often negatively. And Jeff's always yelling at me for that, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I am. Where do you think it goes, Nurit? Do you think it changes again, or do you think this is the path we're going to be on for the foreseeable future?
So the theme of the book is pendulum swings, and I'm showing how in the pre-Techlash era we had several of them. Think about the positive coverage in the .com bubble, and then after that, how was the coverage after the burst? I mean, the tech CEOs were God, and then they became dog, right? So we had that before. But what I'm showing since the Techlash and up is that even with the pandemic, and we had this very short second honeymoon, and
We did.
are so
Yeah.
great
Yes.
for technology.
The Zoom
and
honeymoon.
glad
Yeah.
here. It was so short, and all the Techlash subjects and issues resurfaced again very quickly. So actually, the Techlash is here to stay. So we went from one extreme to the other, but this extreme is here. Like,
How do you
we're
measure-
not going back to the other one, definitely.
How do you measure? Do you do content analysis? How do you, since you're data driven, what are the data points for this?
So I collected the tech coverage of the big tech companies from both traditional media and tech blogs. And then I mapped their, as I said, the yearly timeline. After that, I looked at each really big story and analyzed their response. So I took the press releases, spokesperson statement to journalists and everything that I could use about how they reacted to everything that's happening. And how
reaction
then
is a data point as well.
those responses backlashed as well, because I'm also showing the coverage of how the journalists look at those responses and said it's BS. And so it's back and forth between how the tech companies present the stories and how the media does it. So it's not just the big data shows me the big stories, but then the content analysis go deeper into the actual content.
Well, Jeff knows I eliminated the Google changelog right about that time. I didn't want to talk about that anymore. But he made me bring it back, so.
I did. Let me ask you two questions there, Neerit. I'm curious from that. One is, from the two perspectives you just mentioned. On the journalist side, did they feel guilty and had to overcompensate for their utopianism once tech became a whipping boy? And on the tech side, did the tech people understand the problem they had with their hubris and attitude, and that people didn't like them?
Yeah, so let me answer that in a few ways. There are many factors at play here. So first, there's the power relations between the two groups. So when we were in the phase of innovation journalism and everything is shiny and cool, and innovations are basically good for society, then the tech companies had this power, and we all know their infamous secrecy and limited access, and the tech journalists just want to be, as I said, closer to God. And that made some of the tension that we have today, I think. And then when it moved to tech is, negative and ruin society phase, tech are more defensive and they need always to react about their new scandal of the week, right? So the tech journalists saw that when they dig up and find more harm and have real impact in the world, it's actually good journalism, and more journalists join the effort. So now the relationship is much different.
I'm curious too. I never asked you so you went from being a tech journalist to tech communications, and then choosing to go into the academe.
She started in the dark side. She started in PR.
Went to the light side, and then went to the ivory tower. What made you decide to do research on this? How did you end up choosing the academe then?
Yeah, so when I covered the tech ecosystem in Israel, that was in the early 2000s, we were in the innovation journalism phase, and everything was exciting, and Israel is the startup nation, and all the coverage was about all the cool things coming out of Israel. And right about that time, I finished my MA in communication and political science. And when I looked for academic studies about, my occupation, my passion, tech journalism, I found this depressing void of almost nothing about this field. And I was like, why is nobody focusing on the tech media agenda and the interplay there between all the forces? So basically, I decided to do it myself. And that resulted with my PhD in communication, researching the tech media. But that was tough a decade ago because all my colleagues and professors are in political communication. So one of the reviewers actually wrote, "Who cares about tech news? They are not important."
Wow.
FYI, Leo, they are not important.
Well, I think, I understand why they think that. And I think tech news is often viewed in the same way that, automobile
food news
or food news is, where it's car and driver is not considered a journalistic entity as much as an arm of the big three automakers. But that's why I, from day one, and I think maybe I'm a little bit of a maverick in this business, very consciously decided not to do that, to kind of renovate or rejuvenate.
To use your metaphor, to use your analogy, if autos had been covered as a societal phenomenon with their impact on cities and on life in America and on pollution and such, would have been a big difference. But they weren't.
Yeah, I think once podcasting happened and blogs too, there were people who are not mainstream tech journalists who absolutely had an adversarial relationship. But I don't, Narit, you probably don't know this, but I don't talk to PR people ever. I make a point of it. We don't do loaners for the most part. And sometimes we have to, but I really endeavor to keep us at arm's length from the tech companies and from public relations firms. I have a strong antipathy towards them. So
you're not alone in this.
Yeah, well, now it's probably a little bit more common, but for 40 years I've been making a point of that because I always made sure it was clear in my mind. You heard our mission statement that I was a ombudsman for the user, not for the tech industry. But I can see why your professor would have looked at this and said, "Oh yeah, is there a name for that, Jeff? Genre publishing or niche publishing?"
Well, the service journalism is what we call it.
Yeah, service journalism. That's it. And I think
now I have a very different view. I think journalism should be a service as a whole. So I think that's a.
But who do they serve is the question.
They
speak truth to power, right? And what is it? What is the role of the journalist? Is to
make the discomfort the comfortable.
Yeah.
Hold power to account.
Yeah, all of that. And I think that perhaps service journalism is never viewed as never been viewed as its role. Its role, just like Beltway journalism in Washington D.C., its role is access, and you can't risk access by speaking truth to power. It doesn't work. Go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
But is anyone even
Go ahead, Ed.
Is anyone even discussing the idea that these big journalistic companies have shareholders to answer to, and regardless of how great these writers are, it still comes down to they need clicks. So editors are going to have to make things clickable, and sometimes putting something out there that's just a little bit off the wall is what's going to get those clicks. Are you finding stuff like that in your research?
Well, I think you're touching tech journalists blame the tech platforms for their change in business models and how they do things, and some blame the media for going to all these click bites due to technology. But that's not actually, I think, a huge part of the story, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe Jeff wants to elaborate.
I don't know. I think that we feed off of conflict, which is what I think Ant's point really is. And if you so an editor looks and said, "Oh, good, there's an enemy, there's a bad guy, there's a victim," and we can portray it that way. Then I'll agree with Ant that I think that becomes. It doesn't matter what the fight is. Oh, good, there's a fight. Let's promote it. Is that what you're kind of saying, Ant?
Yeah.
Right.
In that case, I think that, I totally agree that if there is any bias in the media, is that it's pro-conflict.
Yes.
I think
conflict. Right.
Absolutely. That's why Leo and I fight so much. It's just for that reason. We do it for the clicks.
Well,
when it works.
That's it's ruined all journalism, if you ask me.
And to also touch this point, this is why we have articles such as the evil list, listing the 30 most harmful, dangerous, evil companies in tech, because that's like the headline to put on such story.
That's doubly bad. It's a listicle and it's the evil list. It's bad in every respect possible. Let me take a little break. Hold on a second, Jeff. Hold that question. Hold that thought. I want to take a little break. Our guest, this is great. I'm really thrilled to have her, even though she's breaking my heart. Dr. Neeraj Weisblatt is the author of the Techlash and the Tech Crisis Communication, techlashbook.com. It comes out March 24th, but you can pre-order it on Amazon right now. It's great to have you, Neeraj, and we will be back with more in just a second, but it's time for a little word from our sponsor. In this case, it's Melissa. Did you know, have you ever forgotten to check the date in a carton of milk? It just happened to me just the other day. My coffee tasted a little strange, and I realized, I know why. Like milk, if you've got customer data, customer lists, address lists, your customer data goes bad. In fact, on average, about 30% goes bad every year. It's slowly rotting away. Melissa is the address expert. They make sure your data is accurate and current so you reach the right customers. They've been doing this for a long time, for 35 years. They've helped businesses maintain fresh data. It's not just addresses, by the way. You can verify addresses, emails, phone numbers, and names. You can do it in a variety of ways, too. You can do it, kind of on demand. They have a secure FTP server you can upload your address list to, contact list to, or customer list to, and download it fixed. But more often, people use the real-time version of Melissa. Melissa can be a web service. They have a very strong API. It can be software as a service. And that means a lot of companies integrate Melissa into their customer service portals or into their data entry for customers when the customer is giving an address. I can't tell you how many times I've transposed the numbers in my home address. Melissa fixes that and a lot more for 240 plus countries and territories, and they can do it right at the point of entry, which means you're saving time, you're saving money from day one. Only valid billing and shipping addresses are captured and used in your system. They can add consumer demographic information too, public records like property and mortgage data, marital status, social media handles. So you can really develop a rich customer database so you can understand and know your customer better. But don't worry, because they are totally committed to data security, privacy, and compliance. They're HIPAA compliant, GDPR compliant, SOC2 compliant. They undergo continuous independent security audits, so you know they keep your data safe. They're utterly dedicated to your data security and have the strongest controls, industry best practice safeguards while processing your data. Melissa's flexible deployment options mean you can use it in any way you want, on-prem, in the cloud, FTP. I want you to try it. Over 10,000 businesses trust the address experts. There's no reason for you to put up with sour customer data. Go to melissa.com/twit right now, melissa.com/twit. They actually have a developer portal. You can take a look at their APIs, log on, sign up, start playing in the sandbox anytime, and you'll automatically get 1,000 records cleaned for free, but only if you use that address, melissa.com/twit. Take your Christmas card list or some other list and give it a try and see what they can do. It's pretty impressive. Melissa, the address experts, at melissa.com/twit. Thank you, Melissa, for supporting This Week in Google. Thank you, dear listener, for supporting us by using that address, melissa.com/twit. Sorry, Jeff, didn't mean to interrupt. Continue. Do you remember your question? I hope I didn't knock it out of your head.
I forget.
Turn him up. Turn him up.
I don't know. My fault.
Okay,
my fault.
good.
I was typing.
Okay. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just curious, if you were in charge of comm at a tech company today, pick your tech company near it. Is there any way out for them? What would you do? Is there a new kind of honesty and transparency? Will they never be believed and trusted?
So I won't be in that position. I think it's one of the most difficult jobs in the world right now. But yeah, so as you remember from the book, what I found is they usually put out the same playbook, what I call the tech PR template for crisis. They always do the same responses. And one of the book's messages, I think, is that it's, of course, not enough, because I documented that it's backlashed heavily. So how should they react is a brilliant question. I think one of the best quotes in the books are yours, actually, touching that we look at tech as black boxes producing black boxes. So yes, transparency, and they need to educate more about the complexity of the nuances, the issues they're dealing with, and showing the humanity inside. And things of that nature. But also, I think at that time when we see all the wars between them, it's also they need to be more united, because like there are problems that they're dealing with. It's the whole sector that is dealing with, and if they won't deal with them together, it's going to be more damage.
Are there
So
any examples you can remember, call to mind of crisis response done well by a tech company? I'm trying to think myself. I can't think of any.
So the thing is that there's a no-win here, because they are doing what the Crisis Communication 101 tells them to do. They're specifying what they've done, the good intentions, they've built something good, and they have previous good deeds, which they always specify, and great policies in place. But our product, our platform was manipulated and misused by bad, malicious actors. So we always have this victim-villain framing of we were good, and versus the outside malicious entities. Then the other thing is that they always do those apology tours, which I called pseudo-apologies. Because they say we apologize.
Like what Andrew Cuomo is doing right now.
Regret.
Is he apologizing or just denying?
I tweeted today that if your apology begins with an if clause, maybe you should shut your mouth.
If I did that, I don't remember doing that.
If you were hurt by that, if you were offended by
if
that.
in any way, that was that's not the way.
Ridiculous.
The big opportunity for companies these days is data breaches. Almost every company has to announce, oh, gee, I'm sorry, your customer records have been given up to hackers. I mean, clearly Equifax is the exact wrong way to handle that. I'm trying to think of, because actually maybe not. Equifax's way of handling it was making more money by offering.
They grew.
So wrong depends on who you're talking to. If you're a stakeholder, you're pretty happy about it. Yeah. I can't think of.
Look at the reputation on the other hand.
Yeah, that's true. It hurts the reputation, doesn't it?
But you look at, and I don't want to get ahead of us, but the Google story today. About advertising,
it's funny. I was gonna actually go into that, because that's a perfect example.
I think it fits right in with this. Yeah.
So Google announced, and it's in the Wall Street Journal of all places. I don't know. Is that Wall Street Journal crowing a little bit because Google's going to have to stop selling ads based on your specific web browsing? Paul Thurrott was skeptical earlier on Windows Weekly. Apparently, Google and this is it's one of those things. Yeah, I'm going to give up smoking next year. Google, it's March. Plans next year. It's March. That you could do it this year.
No, it's more like
next year.
I have the cure for cancer and you don't.
Yeah.
So
Wednesday,
I can give it up, but you can't.
Google said it plans to stop next year using or investing in. We're going to continue through 2021, but next year we'll stop investing in tracking technologies that uniquely identify web users as they move from site to site across the internet. I mean, clearly this is one of the many things Google and many, many others do with tracking cookies. And in fact, I highly recommend Steve Gibson's show yesterday. He called it DNS collusion. It turns out that of the top 1,000 websites, 10% of them are using a DNS trick in the CNAME field to follow you around, not using, I mean, it's really appalling what they're doing. It's very sneaky. It's pretty technical, so I'll let Steve explain it in security now. But the point, I guess, is Google may say, well, we've decided not to use tracking cookies, but I've always thought Google probably has other means of doing the same thing.
Well, Google has,
of course,
Google
they still
has
have a bottom line to meet.
Yeah, right. Google's 52%.
Well, but they also have the tool to get there. They have the first party data, and they don't need
third party
data.
Yeah,
right.
Pretty party data, because they know where you as a user have gone. Point one. Point two. Evidently, they're going to have your local browser is going to kind of type you, so you're in more control of that, which I've actually argued for years. When I try to get Google to share kind of types with publishers, but now Google's going to say we can do that kind of on our own. So it's a perfect example of regulatory capture, where everybody screamed, "Cookies are evil. Third-party duty is evil. We're going to get you, Google. We're going to demonize all that stuff." And Google said, "Oh, okay, no cookies." And then the publishers say, "But but we don't have any first-party data. That's not fair.
Google has already responded. What I was just talking about, reading on in the article, the company last year said they would stop using third-party cookies in 2022, but now the company's saying neither will it build alternative tracking technologies or use those.
Which is what they were going to do.
Right, or use those being developed by other entities, like I would imagine the CNAME inclusion, which is offered by Adobe, Oracle, and Salesforce, among others, to replace third-party cookies for its own ad buying tools. Google says its ad buying tools will use new technologies it has been developing with others in what it calls a privacy sandbox.
They've been working with publishers on this.
This is regulatory capture right here.
The last 6 or 8 months.
To target ads without collecting information about individuals from multiple websites. As an example, one such technology analyzes users' browsing habits on their own devices. And in other words, so it's doing on-device analysis.
It's doing it locally.
And then allows advertisers to target aggregated groups of users with similar interests. They call them cohorts rather than individual users.
Here's a jock. Here's a nerd.
This is what Facebook does. Facebook never says, here's what Leo Laporte wants to know. They say, here are 1,000 people like Leo Laporte that you could target because they all have the same interest. So there's the story. Now we're going to ask Nurit. There's the story. You can see already where the tech journalists are going, well, sure, Google.
Right.
Or it's regulatory capture. Google's pulling up the ladder because it's already won. How could Google have handled this better, and how should we handle this?
Well, I think it's similar to all ban political advertising at all.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Yes.
So it always goes back to we ask them to do one thing, and then just like Jeff said. But I think a step back, the whole Techlash thing started because micro-targeting became this evil force of, the source of evil in the world, right? And it was because of things like the Russian interference. So back then, everybody looked at micro-targeting as the worst thing on the internet. But now we have Facebook changing the conversations, showing, okay, if we don't have targeted things, how small businesses are going to reach their audience. So you see also Facebook going out with other messages, trying at least to change the framing of it's not that evil. It's actually very helpful, specifically in the pandemic where small companies are hurt. And so that's is a thing that I think they're doing well, actually, now.
Of course, Apple precipitated all this by changing its ID for advertisers and using its ATT technology. And that's the one that Facebook's really saying, oh, it's not just us you heard, Apple. It's all the small businesses in all the world. Google,
I think it's all connected.
Google put its finger to the wind and said, well, but I have to say I remain skeptical. Google, by the way, says its announcement does not cover its ad tools and unique identifiers for mobile apps, just for websites. Wall Street Journal has decided to take this as a good sign. This is the quote, but its plan is the latest sign that the tide might be turning on user tracking more broadly. And I might say it's just going underground. And we use that term regulatory capture, but that's essentially saying the big incumbents who are already making billions of dollars can handle this kind of thing.
They're fine. They can handle it.
They're fine, and everybody
the other part
else.
Of this, Leo, so we've been talking too about the devices. The more that happens locally on your device, all the intelligence is now going into your phone.
Yeah,
it can analyze. It can do a lot of ad targeting logic locally, and to just say, "Oh, that's the choice for ads. Give them this one."
Yeah.
Right.
Related story.
And also,
go ahead.
On
go ahead,
the other side, just one sentence is that when the media is attacking the actual, fundamentals of your business, like the business model you have, PR can't fix it. PR can't help because you're not going to change the fundamentals of your business because you don't have any incentive to do so. So no matter messaging you go without, it's not going to help.
So really, what you're saying, it's interesting. After the Techlash, is not only has tech journalism redefined itself, but it's made it harder for tech companies and PR companies to frame the conversation. They need to
Because
rethink how they do their job.
Even when they did specify their corrective actions. So these are the steps we're going to do to improve the issue, and moving forward, those are the future steps we're going to do. Even those corrective actions, as I said, backlashed and got criticism.
Interesting. It's because it's adversarial now. But isn't that a good thing?
Yeah,
Shouldn't journalists be adversarial to the field they cover? I know, Jeff, you
everybody
disagree.
honest that way, right?
And I asked them, of course, they will say that's our job. We're just doing our job.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not here to.
But no, your attitude is the right attitude, Leo, even though you screw it up and mess it up all the time. But speaking for the user is a better way, right? It's not between the journalist and the company.
That's right.
The two powerful
I'm not out
entities,
to get
right?
Apple or Google or Facebook.
Right.
I'm out to represent the interests of the people who use it.
Which is why I like so much Neerit's analysis when she started talking to us today, is that it's a power analysis. And if you look at the power of media v technology, that doesn't include the public and the users and the impact, and that's where we should be starting. And the problem is that if it's constantly hostile, that doesn't help much either. I saw a newspaper somewhere in the U.S. today said, well, we're going to stop doing restaurant reviews because we don't want to hurt the restaurants. Well, okay, but you could do the best takeout things in Cincinnati, whatever the city was, I forget, right? There's other ways you could do that would serve both the eater and the restaurant. But this attitude of, well, I'm going to be tough all the time, that's how I show myself. No, the utopian stuff was the fanboy stuff was bad. The dystopian moral panic is bad. Neither serves the public in the end, is why I so much liked the analysis that Neerit did.
What gets me is it seems like a lot of journalism, if it comes off as happy, go like you feeling, warm and stuff, it's false. But if it comes off as I'm against this, I didn't like this, yada yada yada, you're too aggressive, and I don't. Is that just a societal thing, or where is that? Because if I could speak out about a camera that I used and said that I didn't like it, people are going to say, hey, he's against that camera manufacturer for whatever reason, when the fact of the matter is the tech just isn't there. But if I gush about the camera, then they're going to call me a fanboy.
You can't win.
Right, it's like you can't win.
Yeah.
Even though in both instances,
credibility.
I'm being truthful on both sides of it. And I see that a lot with journalism, and makes me wonder, what's going through those editors' minds and what's going through the people that are putting the content out, what's going through their minds.
So I think we need to make a difference between products reviews, which is one type of journalism in tech, and all the other coverage that is more into the big tech companies' power and influence, which is a different type of journalism. So
depending on the tech company, that's still powered. It's still a product, depending on the tech company. When you start talking about Google, search is their product. Advertising is their product, right?
Yeah, but when you're talking about a camera, for example, that's what I meant, that it's a different type of, you can either like the specs and the usage or not, and it's different from hearing about antitrust, monopoly power, or content moderation. So those are different type of issues there. Yeah. And one of the reasons that we have the Techlash is because of the companies, that the big tech bigness. So they're so big and they have such, huge scale, is that they're at a place of getting scrutiny. If nothing else, it's because of how big and powerful they are. And it's not like they're getting less powerful or less big. So the focus on them is because of their growing power. And thus, the tech journalists saying we need to hold power to account and speak truth to power. And that's exactly why we're doing it now, and not when they were this small startup in a garage or something.
Right. There's another dynamic at play that's really playing out dramatically, which is, and it also has to do with power. It used to be there's tech journalism and there's tech companies, but tech journalism, like every other form of journalism, has been completely dismantled by kind of a more democrat. I mean, is Marquez Brownlee a traditional tech journalist? I'd say no. There are a lot of YouTube tech, quote, people who are covering tech, let's put it that way. And they're very much not in the corporate mold of a tech journalist of even 5 years ago, let alone the ZDNet, Ziff Davis era or the IDG
Tech
era.
Dirt, I think, does some of the best work out there.
And blogs are a good example. Podcasts, blogs, and YouTube. there are a lot more people covering tech than ever before. The standards they operate with, which this is my personal pet peeve, the ethical standards they operate with are very widely and are never really fully revealed. I think it's a different world. It's not a monolithic. You can't say there's tech journalism anymore. Everybody covers tech.
Mm-hmm. I can't agree more. The book touches the difference between tech bloggers and tech journalists a lot, even though I get criticism for doing that. I'm showing why I'm keeping the divide between tech journalists and tech bloggers in some cases. And I'm showing how...
I can appreciate that.
Thank you.
I can appreciate that because it's two different worlds and two different disciplines, if you will, going into it that a tech commentator or a tech pundit just may not understand, in my opinion.
So the way I'm looking at it is, again, I'm a communication researcher, is through the lens of agenda setting. So when I'm looking at the agenda, when it comes to product launches and the first row when we had events live, those were the tech bloggers, right? Because you wanted them to do the hands-on review. So they were the agenda setters when it comes to new products. But when it comes to, I don't know, the Congress investigation about the Russian interference, it will be the New York Times, Washington Post, and all the traditional media outlets that have tech coverage. So that's the difference. And they have, as Leo said, different ethical framework to work because those subjects are, their importance is different or their impact is different.
It's changing so rapidly.
Question?
It's funny because it's another hot button for me. This is a very hot button topic for me, Nuria. I'm sorry. Another hot topic for me is the relationship between tech companies and their PR arms and tech journalists very much has been impacted by the growth of tech journalism. You know, when I was on TV or writing for magazines, I was treated as a tech journalist. As soon as I started doing it in podcasts, it was like, who are you? I want to see some tear sheets. Do you have some? There's no freaking tear sheets from a podcast. It really. I have to say, tech PR is, forgive me, horrible. These people are idiots. Okay, I'm going to stop now.
Okay, I can't agree with that.
Honestly, I know they're well-meaning and mostly very nice people. You don't get into PR if you don't like people and you're not nice. But right. I don't think that they, whether they're in-house or an agency, I don't think they do a very good job at all. That's one of the reasons I don't ever want to talk to them again.
So what the book shows is that tech journalists reflected on their relationship with tech PR, the other side, the dark side, the enemy side, as you said. And they said, okay, so back then, in the glorious days, we had computer magazines and we had press releases and conferences.
Then you knew who was the power, right?
Yeah. And they mainly dictated. We've done a lot of copy-paste. We're sorry for that time in our professional life. But yeah, most of the coverage was promotional from those press releases and what they wanted to present. But the problem is that as everybody wanted more tech information because tech became more integrated in everything in our lives. And then what happened in the power shift here is that the companies became more secretive with limited access. And then they can choose which journalists they invite for a conversation and whether it will be, with on background or not on background. And then the journalists complained, well, if you speak critically, you're just not entering the door. You can't go there. They won't invite you to anything. And that was a lot of frustration that was building up for years. And now they're glad that they can be both critical and have an interview. But then what happens if it's not on background and you're inside, the CEO just gives you the, PR talking points and did not really saying anything that he wanted.
Never.
They didn't want to reveal
I
anything.
never interview CEOs. I was offered Bill Gates once during a Comdex, and they said, okay, what are your questions? I said, I don't submit questions ahead of time. They said, well, you have to if you want to talk to Bill. I said, well, thanks for nothing.
Leo hasn't been invited to Apple in how many years?
2010, 10, 11 years. I hate these companies. I love technologists. I love geeks. I love engineers. I love technology, and I love technologists. I really hate the marketing shell around them. I just it's not. I'm not a fan. So this is. I'll let you handle this conversation, Jeff, because my antipathy is showing, and I want to.
I just want to bring up something else. So, Neera, it was interesting lately. There was when the Facebook Oversight Board released its first opinions, they offered them on embargo, which is something Leo won't do, partly because he can't keep a secret.
No, I make that joke about that, but I refuse to do embargoes or NDAs. Again, there's a pattern here. I don't play this game. Leo don't play that game.
A couple of researchers, and I was offered it too, but I just didn't have time, so I said I don't care. But one important researcher got the material the night before, so she was able to write a really good report for a legal blog, and this is fairly normal in our world, right? But the anti-tech research community went berserk on her and tore her apart because she got early access to the information. She still wrote a tough report. She's very tough on them. But it was fascinating to see this clash of these cultures all coming in together as everybody's now gathering around tech in a different way. The rules we used to have don't apply anymore.
Yeah, I think I remember.
So I don't know what you and your research world thinks.
I don't remember the specifics of the story, but
yeah, I'm trying to leave people out of it. Is it improper for a researcher to get access?
I think so, specifically if it's her expertise. The thing is that I think you're touching is that it wasn't in the narrative what she wrote, and that's where it backlashed, right?
Right.
And the problem with something out of the narrative is that it's problematic, because you again said something important in the book, is that the media works as a herd, right? So it's this pack mentality that if the specific stories are the newsworthy stories and the framing is a specific framing by which we work with, all the other stories or framings are kind of out of the picture, specifically in the main, prestigious outlets that dictate what is news and what's the framing of the news. Yeah. So if you're out of this, that's the problem, I think, with touching.
I hand it back to you, Leo. We can move on to other stories.
I will take a break momentarily, and then we'll come back with more with our guest. It's really a fascinating conversation, I have to say. Dr. Neera Weisblatt is the author of The Techlash, which will be available for pre-order now and available on your book stand March 24th. Techlash book. If you want to know more, on her Twitter handle, which I love, is Dr. Techlash. So if you don't mind, I'm going to say Dr. Techlash is with us. Also, Anna Pruitt, Jeff Jarvis, who is Dr. Moral Panic, and we will have more in a moment.
Our show, Gutenberg.
Dr. Gutenberg, yeah. Our show today brought to you by Uber, but a special part of Uber for business. This is something that kind of speaks to me. We always want to reward our employees. Yesterday everybody came in early at 8 in the morning. Thank you, Ant. Thank you, John. Thank you, Anthony. So we could cover that ridiculous Microsoft Ignite event, whatever the hell that was, yesterday. And if I'd thought about it, I would have sent him a voucher from Uber for Business for breakfast, or maybe send them a voucher for an Uber to come on in, that kind of thing. If you're having a hard time getting people to show up or stay engaged in virtual team meetings or events, if you want to spiff employees or customers with a ride or food, Uber for Business is for you. Over 160,000 companies use Uber for Business to improve customer and employee satisfaction. You can order a ride, but you can also order meals through Uber Eats. You're having a meeting, you want some prospects to come to the meeting. You say, hey, come to our meeting, we're going to talk about this, but I'd like to buy you a cup of coffee. You send them an Uber for Business voucher. Now, here's why you'll like this. It's very easy. You can sign up for free. You can immediately, literally, as soon as you sign up, start delivering extra value to the people who matter most to your business. Vouchers are very easy for you to send. They're very easy for your customer or colleague to redeem. You get total control. You can say who gets it, who can use it when they expire. You can even say, I only want to cover half the ride or half the meal. You can select a portion. Vouchers can be shared via email. They can be shared by text, and they can be redeemed with a single tap. So it's very easy for everybody involved. And here's the best part. You only pay for the rides they take or the meals they order. So you know, send these out. It's great. People love it. Half the time they don't use it, costs you nothing. Right now, for a limited time, you can get a $50 voucher when you create your first vouchers campaign and spend $200 or more. Go to Uber, U-B-E-R, uber.com/twig to learn more. This is such a good idea, such a nice thing. I really love the idea of, you know, we try to do things like this for our employees, but, you know, sending somebody flowers, that's nice, but it's something they can use. This is better. Send them dinner. Send them a ride. Uber.com/twig. Uber.com/twig. Some terms and conditions apply. Thank you, Uber, for giving me some good ideas. I'm sorry I didn't do that for you yesterday, Ant.
It's okay. You can still send me some Popeyes.
Did we? Oh, Popeyes for business. Now there's a business plan.
Yeah. That's a big new sponsor you got there, fella.
I like the Uber for business. I do.
Yeah.
Did you see any of that Microsoft event? You probably didn't, Jeff. It's not in your beat.
No, just to watch a little tiny bit. I don't know.
It was so bizarre. Ant, what do you think? I never asked you. You left before I got the chance to ask you.
It was one of those things where I was asking myself, why?
Why?
You know, because it's nice to know that this technology is out there, but VR has just sort of died down, in my opinion.
Yes,
people try to.
I'm a VR skeptic. I really am.
And I get the potential for it, but yet at the same time, I don't see it being implemented anywhere that regular people are going to dive in and just start spending money on it. So that's why I just said, why have this?
Yeah, Microsoft announced at their Ignite conference, which is a conference for developers and IT people, they announced, really, it's not a new technology. It's a basket. Right. This is what Microsoft does lately, is they take a bunch of stuff and put it in a basket they're calling Mesh. But the thing that you'll most easily recognize is the HoloLens and the augmented reality and the meetings that some people are in the space, but some people are joining you holographically, virtually. I think maybe it wasn't the best keynote because it kind of implied that all of this would be done underwater, and that's not. I don't think that's the case. But the whole thing was kind of like what, with whales swimming around and stuff. It was a little bit strange.
Isn't Microsoft always about 5 years behind everything else? You know,
no. They actually have a very active R&D division.
No, but they discovered search.
I know. Bill Gates didn't think the internet was going anywhere. I know. Exactly. They had this HoloLens. This really was. This is 5-year-old technology. I think that's why I was mostly disappointed. HoloLens was invented released almost exactly 5 years ago. 2 years ago, the last update. And nothing since then. See, this is exactly what Nurit's talking about. I am a skeptic. This was a great thing 5 years ago. Now, just more big tech.
We just need implementation. You need some type of nice implementation.
Well, it's the case, Nurit, that a lot of tech companies, this is one thing that has changed. And it's not just Donald Trump's election or whatever the seminal events were. It is the case that when technology was young, there were a lot of green fields and a lot of easy fruit to pick. But now here we are in a mature time, and the phone is pretty mature, and what we do is pretty mature. And I think tech companies don't have the luxury of saying, "Oh, well, that's an obvious next thing to do." They have to work harder, and we as customers are not being very helpful in telling them what we want. So I think they're throwing. We have an expression in the U.S. I don't know what you say in Israel. We throw spaghetti against the wall. Mm-hmm. You might throw hummus against the wall. And you see, actually, hummus always sticks, so that's not good, yeah. But you throw spaghetti against the wall and you see what sticks. I feel like tech companies, and this is a really good example, this is out of nowhere. They're going, what's the next big thing? What's the next big thing? And a number of them have come up with this idea that it's augmented reality / virtual reality. And a lot of us users are going, really? Do you think that's let me ask Lyra this, because I want to get her opinion. Do you think that's something that's also the reason for this techlash? I mean, it's not as easy as it used to be.
Sure. So the book specifies that it's not only the reckoning from Trump election or the bigness that I mentioned. It's the accumulation of many issues at once that created this techlash. So it was also, as you said, data breaches and sexual harassment and discrimination. So we had that issues happening. But also, and you touched it now, is it's not the innovation journalism we used to have, because we used to be really enthusiastic about everything that is new and exciting, and now you can see it in your episodes of This Week in Technology and Google and all the other things that you read the news and you say, that's not that big of a deal.
Right.
It's not exciting, and it's so what's new is not as exciting as it used to be, because those are like small changes to things that you already used to, and
We were so excited. We were so excited to go to an Apple event in 2007. Steve Jobs announces the iPhone, and it's like, I mean, as journalists, we're supposed to be sitting on our hands the whole time, and it was everything I could do, and I think I failed not to leap to my feet and cheer. In 2010, Apple announces the iPad. You can think of these important. And so there was a reason we were cheerleading. These were really big innovations.
It was innovation.
There were those are groundbreaking
breakthroughs. Yeah.
So let me try another theory then.
Even when Facebook just started, it was this small startup doing something really, really good, connecting people.
Yes.
And when Netflix started, we stopped with the envelope and moved to streaming. So those are all new, big, huge things that shifted our usage of technology. But now it's just got used to it, and we take it for granted.
Now it's like TikTok and then Snapchat no beard filter is the hot thing. What? He's got no beard. Oh, well, he has a little beard down at the bottom. That's disgusting.
And that is
how it's hard to get excited about that, Nurit. I mean, it really is hard.
Right there, right.
You can only get so excited about sea shanties. We do a pretty good job around here, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
But Ratatouille, the TikTok musical, that's another matter.
That's a different matter.
Oh, gosh, no.
I have a theory here.
Windows Weekly earlier, and I liked your point about timing. Had this been announced last year with the whole mesh, would it have made a difference because of where we were as a nation, and everybody's just trying to get used to this whole being sheltering in place and locked down and not able to get out and see people, and the same way Zoom took advantage of it. Do you think it would have been better? I think it would have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you also have the problem that this stuff takes a while to develop. It's hard to know what's going on inside these big companies. That's, I think, another thing. I don't know if you covered this at all, Nurit, but the challenge I always have is you tend to personify companies like Apple and Microsoft and Google. Because we don't see into what's really going on, and we don't. For me, because I don't get to know the people behind this intentionally. We kind of anthropomorphize these corporations. We ascribe motives to them that really aren't corporate motives. They're human motives. We say Apple's trustworthy. Google's shifty. Facebook's evil. Those aren't really accurate. And so it's hard. Do you consider that at all? And one of the problems that tech journalism faces is we're mostly not business journalists, so we don't really know how to think about these companies. And as a hangover from the old days when we were cheerleading, we still have this notion that Apple's this, I confront this every time we do MacBreak Weekly, that Apple's somehow this magical company that will take whatever field it decides to do the next big thing and will revolutionize
cars.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not true. It's not. It's a terrible expectation to put on a company, and it also hurts your ability to interpret what they're up to.
So most of it was on the shoulders of the founders and CEOs. So the cult of personality was mainly about those geniuses doing those new innovations and make the world a better place, right? That was the narrative of the years. And now I would say that the tech journalists, when they look at those tech CEOs, they want to take them down from those
good point.
thrones, right? Because we don't want you being in this throne and deciding everything. So now we're going to say that you're evil and you have all those other incentives.
It's like we're like jilted lovers. We got our hearts broken.
We are in the divorce phase.
We're in the divorce phase. Because I think a lot of people still think Apple, Steve Jobs, Microsoft, Bill Gates, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, Google, Larry and Sergey. That's the personification. I don't know if that was even true back in the day, because Microsoft's a company with tens of thousands of employees and many, many managers and many executives.
Right. It becomes a company no matter what. A company is a company. A company will do what a company do.
Yeah.
I have another theory here. I want to play this off near it. Pendulum I buy, and I think that's right. But as you say, the pendulum doesn't go back. It went all in one way. As I'm dealing with Gutenberg, sorry, that's a drinking game. Everybody drink, Gutenberg. We go from the early day of the technology where, wow, look at all the things it can do, right? And then we go to, look at all the things it can do. We got to control that. And then the next phase, I think, is where we're starting to hit into, I don't know how long it will take, is, that's boring. And then what happens is, what can I make with this? Right? Well, it struck me that I said this on the show many times, that it took 150 years after the invention of printing to invent the newspaper. That was creation not in the technology of printing, but with printing. Because printing by then was, everybody knew how to do it. It was boring. There was no big deal. The 30 Years' War was over. Now innovations on top of it started to come. And I think we're a long way from that. But I wonder if it's not joy to horror to control to boredom to invention, or that that's not a different cycle.
So one cycle that I think analyze the things the way you did now is Gartner cycle, when they're talking about the threat of disillusionment. That first you are really enthusiastic about something, and then, oh no, look at all the unintended consequences and how it's bad. And then after the up and down, it's kind of get to a middle ground that, we handle it now and we use it and forget about it. So different technologies go through this cycles. And I think social media now is in the, oh no, what it does to society phase. And I think you're looking at the escape route of having more middle ground, and good luck with that.
I just want to mention real quickly the launch is going on right now for Elon Musk's his Starship? Go ahead and show it, John. The rocket that will be going, you can show it, John. Do you have it? There we go. It's just launched. And in about 4 minutes, now remember, it's done this several times successfully, but in 4 minutes, it's going to do the turnaround and attempt to land. And the last couple of times, it's exploded on landing, which SpaceX was quick to point out is not a failure. It's not a failure. It just blew up. So we'll watch with interest to see.
It looks like such a different focused spurt of the fire at the bottom.
You think there's a noticeable difference?
Yeah, I think it usually is kind of.
It's much more condensed. It is. And of course, the fins on this are the
significance of it.
We don't know. They haven't said anything. The fins are designed to help it do the flip and landing procedure. But this is the vehicle that will bring humans to Mars. Probably tomorrow, I think Elon said it'll happen. No, Thursday? Friday? Although Elon has said he's going to build 100 of these vehicles this year. So he's really planning an exodus to Mars. So I don't know. Should we stick with this for a little bit, John? I want to see the flip. If the flip is imminent.
At some point in the show today, Leo, I have an assignment for you.
Yes.
I want you to explain NFTs to me.
Yeah, I do want to. In fact, and we'll mention this as we're waiting for the flip and landing. My friend
explain it to me too.
Yeah. So the story with NFTs, which stands for non-fungible tokens. So a dollar bill is fungible.
What that just rolls off the tongue.
Well, but it makes sense if you think about it. A dollar bill is fungible, right? Yeah. It's infinitely fungible. $1 bill is exactly like any other, and it can be exchanged for any other. It's completely fungible. Non-fungible tokens are one of a kind. They cannot be exchanged for anything else. The idea is, well, if you go to NBATopShot.com, you're buying an NBA highlight, which have sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars, and you have the one and only not copy, I don't know, rights to it. Artwork's been sold that way. Elon Musk's, I don't know what to call her, baby mama, is that okay? The mother of his child.
That's a fact.
Partner.
Partner's fine.
But I don't know if they're still partnered, to be honest with you. The only thing we know for sure is they had a child together. Anyway, Grimes, she's a kind of outrageous rock star performer, sold an unbelievable $5.8 million worth of her artwork as digital versions, as NFTs, in 28 minutes. So
that's awesome.
So she made, now what, I've been mentioning this story a couple of times on shows. What I didn't think of is, well, who spent $300,000 for Grimes' digital artwork? And then I realized, I wonder if she knows anybody with a lot of money
who can move markets.
Who can move markets? I mean, to Elon Musk, $5.8 million is nothing. That's cigarette money. Okay, the rocket is smoking, so I think it's either. Is this good, John? The smoking? That's fine. Okay.
Crossing fingers.
It looks like the cigar I smoked last year. Anyway, these NFTs are all the rage. Whether it's artwork, NBA Top Shots, NBA highlights. You may remember we talked about crypto kitties a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. These were digital cats that could interbreed, and people were spending millions to buy. This is pure speculation. That's, I think, the bottom line. So Trey Ratcliffe, one of my friends and a great photographer, today, in fact, I tried to get him on the show. I haven't heard from him. He's in New Zealand. He may be asleep. Said, I will send you, let me see if I can find his email. He said, I will send you one of my artworks as an NFT. I said, oh, it's coming down. It's coming down. It's flipped. It's flipped. Let's see what's going on here. So it's got to flip over, obviously, so that it can land. This feels like we're watching
good camera work.
Buck Rogers.
Yeah, exactly. It's Flash Gordon. Yeah, that's what
Flash Gordon in the 21st century. Ha, ha, ha. He'll save every one of us. Anyway, we'll keep watching this while I talk. That's fine. No. Keep
Leo, this time don't lose the password, huh?
So he said, I wanted to offer you one of my Burning Man photo NFTs as a gift for being an awesome dude. Thank you, Trey. You can do whatever you want with it. One idea is to auction it off for a charity if you like. But hey, it will be a little blockchain gift for my friend. And I said, I promise not to resell it. I don't know what I can do with it. Because do I print it? What can I do with it? But I do promise not to resell it. But what I'd like to do is get Trey on and explain this, because obviously he's got a handle on whatever this is, this NFT thing. Non-fungible tokens. They're the opposite of dollar bills.
What struck me about it, I was trying to get my head around it. I learned that at the beginning of copyright, the argument was this is good for authors, but what it really did was the booksellers wanted the authors to be able to own it so they could sell it to the booksellers. And then it made creativity into a tradable asset.
Yeah.
And so I wonder in this case.
Oh, look at this. This is so Buck Rogers.
Crap,
I cannot believe this.
Oh, I see now. Jesus.
Oh,
wow.
my God. So this is where, of course,
is it going to do it?
It failed in the past. But Elon, he's going to figure it out. They got to land exactly upright, otherwise it won't stand. And I think it succeeded. Ladies and gentlemen, Starship has landed 6 minutes and 27 seconds into its flight.
It's still burning at the bottom. I don't know.
No, that's just, I think that's dust. A lot of the clouds, I didn't know this until I learned something, are water vapor. And on these launches, they use water vapor to cool the launching pad. And so a lot of what you think is smoke.
Something's burning down there.
Still standing.
Something's burning at the bottom.
That's the jet, little jet. The little jet, as long as it doesn't get bigger, it's getting bigger. As long as it doesn't get any bigger, it's going to...
I don't know. We're going to see Elon going out there with a fire extinguisher.
As nutty as he is, he's really amazing, too, at the same time.
Yes.
I don't know. He's as confusing as non-fungible tokens.
I still look at that and just marvel at just the brains behind making that happen, yet you go downtown Petaluma and people can't parallel park.
I know.
Actually, if you had a Tesla, it would parallel park for you. Petaluma.
Petaluma.
Should I play that? Or is that too? That's just inside baseball.
Yes.
Really? So the story behind this one is that the city of the little town we live in of Petaluma, banned gas stations. The first town in the country to ban gas stations. Because part of the reason for doing that, besides the fact that I do believe that. Let me see, I'm looking for the clip. Here it is up here, right? Is this it? No. No foreign fans allowed at Tokyo Olympics. Oh, that's Como. Yeah. So let me open this up. So just as the setup, of course, electric vehicles are big in California, and they're taking off. And California has said that they will only allow electric vehicles in the coming decades. But also here in Petaluma, we have a number of areas in downtown that, and you don't even know this, but there's a big area in the downtown that can't be used because it was a gas station. When I moved here, it was a Chevron station, and the tanks leaked, as all gas station tanks do, and it can't be remediated except for millions of dollars, so nobody can use that plot of land. There are 3 or 4 of those in Petaluma, old gas stations that are gone, but the land is useless.
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. So this is the story from Como News, because our city council, which had a 2-year moratorium on building gas stations, finally said, we have enough. We don't need any more. No more gas stations in Petaluma. Here's the story.
One West Coast city is banning the construction of new gas stations. City leaders in the Northern California town Petamula believe this is the first ban of its kind in the U.S.
What? Wait a minute, what?
California town Petamula.
Who? What?
Petamula.
Okay, that's where we live, in Petamula. All right, that was just inside baseball. There was no reason to do that.
Noted.
Sorry.
Sorry, Lyra. We'll get back to the show.
Anyway, NFTs.
That's what we do here.
Do you have
it's irrelevant, we do it.
Do you have a take, Lyra, on these NFTs? This is just wild.
I had just one thought, the really stupid, crazy one, when you talked about Elon Musk maybe funding it. I'm binge watching Breaking Bad. So there's a period where Walter White, to launder his money, using Saul Goodman to have a site that his son actually made for donation to Walter White.
That's right, for his cancer treatment, which he doesn't have. Right.
Is his money with actually Russian bots they use.
Oh, my God.
That's right.
Normal people in the U.S. paying for his cancer treatment, but it was actually Walter White and his money using Saul Goodman. So that's the only thought I had when you talked about it.
Lindsay Lohan sold an NFT for $59,000. Mark Cuban says
the rich richer.
You got to invest in NFTs. This is Grimes' art piece, Death of the Old. This sold for $400,000. But somebody pointed out, we were talking about this on Twitter on Sunday, and there was Lance Ulanoff pointed out, this has been going on for years in the fine art world.
In the art business.
Is a Basquiat, I don't think Basquiat's paintings are that gorgeous, but they sell for tens of millions of dollars because it's speculation. And so
the problem is that to me it's the last gasp of the property metaphor that copyright started. That acts as if creativity is a tangible thing as opposed to an act. And if you look at, pardon me, Ant, Ratatouille the musical, there were many contributions. I'm going to bring this in every time I can, Ant. I'm going to get us a new drinking game.
It's in the drinking game.
Yeah, you have to drink if he says it.
Yeah.
Don't do it, Nareet. Don't do it.
Can't stand musicals, so that's why. But there was a string of creativity there, where everyone got to contribute to it. Disney, for once, didn't stop it because they recognized, as I said in my tweet, that value redounded to their rat. They created value because no one owned it. Instead, everyone contributed and everyone benefited according to their desires. Maybe it was just attention. Maybe it was making the musical happen. Maybe it was feeling smart with your friends. Whatever it was a different structure. Whereas NFTs seem to be go the exact opposite, where they make everything into a tradable property. I have it, you can't. Nya.
Here is a painting. I'm going to show you a painting. This is a Basquiat. You like it?
Yeah.
How much? How much do you think it's worth?
I would assume about.
That doesn't include the person walking by it, by the way. Just the painting. That's $110 million.
Oh, shit.
$110 million sold at auction at Christie's a couple of years ago.
Wow.
Just to give you an idea.
I started selling my daughter's paintings. She's 5.5.
I bet you can make a lot of money near it.
Looks like that.
Yeah, it looks like it.
So,
line 78, Elise Swopes is someone, actually I'm trying to get her on hands-on photography. I met her a couple of years ago. She's an Instagram influencer, and I know she doesn't really care to hear that, but she is. She has an NFT, and it just sold a couple hours ago for about 17 grand. You know, she just uses her iPhone because she doesn't like to use her camera. She uses her iPhone to snap photos and to edit photos and make them all mystical and funny.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Really, really cool.
I love this.
She's a super talented creator, and she decided to jump on this and sold her first one today. And I'm looking at that, and it makes me happy to see that a creator is able to.
I'm a little nervous that New York City is leaking, but
this is a cinematograph, right, Ant? Where it's a still picture, but some of it's in motion.
Correct.
And so that's problem number one. You can't put that on the wall. You can't even print it. It has to be digital for it to be perceived. Right. So what NFTs have solved in at least this respect is using blockchain, you can be the unique one and only owner of this document. It may be infinitely reproducible because it's digital. It can be perfectly reproduced infinitely, but only you own it. And so it's up to you whether to reproduce it, I guess. But blockchain allows that.
Yeah, because ownership brings rights.
Yeah.
Under the copyright rule.
Yeah, so blockchain allows that. That's all. NFTs all use blockchain to prove ownership, as far as I know. I don't know. And this is another problem in tech journalism. When you get to my age,
you've seen it all.
It stops making sense. It's like I don't understand this at all. And I kind of understand how older people felt back in 1984 when the Macintosh came out. It's like, well, I don't understand. Well, why would you want a computer on your desk? That makes no sense at all.
I'm not at your age yet, and there's a lot of days where I still say, well, why?
You're old before your time, man. That's all.
What is that for? I'm oldish. I will definitely say I'm oldish.
Yeah. Old and wise, Ant. Old and wise.
Let me take another break here. Well, actually, do we have a change log? We do.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you, Jason. Jason stuck some stuff in the change log. So let's do that, and then we'll take a break right after that. And I want to give another big plug to Techlash, the book. Our guest is the author, and it's really wonderful to have you, Nurit. You can get it at, what's the website? Techlash, the book? Is that it?
Techlashbook.com is just me putting info, but it's actually on Amazon and all the other, Barnes & Noble and the publisher, Emerald Publishing.
Perfect.
Everywhere.
Dr. Techlash. Actually, we should point out, it's an expensive book because it's an academic book, right? It's not intended for
it's
public.
An academic publisher, academic book, but although it's for scholars and students who want to know about
for our folks, it's fascinating.
For the industry, tech journalism and tech PR professionals.
Well, especially because it's data driven. It's not just your good idea. It's based on.
It's research based.
Yeah, a lot of research. Dr. Weisblatt was a research fellow at the University of Southern California Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism, which is almost as famous as the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. I don't know who this Annenberg guy is, but I'm sure he's just as good as Craig Newmark.
His day is gone.
Yeah, probably. You know what? A lot of people have no idea who Annenberg is or what TV Guide is, right?
TV Guide, except that I was a critic there once.
Yes, you're the last remaining mention of TV Guide in the world. Congratulations.
Inside joke,
Congratulations. He's a former TV Guide critic, Nurit. You probably didn't know that when you interviewed him.
I know. It's written in my book.
Oh, it's in the book. Wow.
I mentioned that.
Wow.
I can't escape.
You cannot escape.
He's dying.
And he's not dead yet. It's time for
The Google changelog.
the thing blew up afterwards. Oh, the rocket blew up afterwards. You were right.
I see. I
Jeff.
told you.
It had a little fire
I told
at the
you
bottom.
It was on fire.
It sat there for a while, thinking, and then decided to blow up. Hey, one step at a time.
Amen.
I'm not sure we should be going to Mars. There was a good article. Where was it? The Atlantic, I think, on why maybe it's really not where you ought to be going. But it's still. I love space exploration. March Pixel feature drop. If those are 4 words that make no sense to you, see your doctor. March is the month. Pixel is the phone. Feature drop is something Google does every few months to their Pixel phones. And boy, some more. This is why you want a Pixel phone. The feature drop includes underwater photography. The recorder
Explain
app.
that to us, Ant.
It's more so about the UI. You get a particular phone case.
You still need a housing. You
Waterproof.
can't just take the phone down below.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have the UI that's enhanced for that case to allow you to take photographs. LifeProof has had waterproof cases out for a handful of years now, especially more so for the iPhone. When I used to run a smartphone photographers community, a friend of mine, Mr. Mike Sweeney, he took some amazing shots with his iPhone 4, in the pool, but he had a LifeProof case, and it was easy because of the way the iPhone camera interface was. He could see it pretty clearly and be able to tap and do what he needed to do and control exposure and stuff like that.
So what's happening here is that the Pixel is actually adding features for dive case connector.
Right.
So if you have a dive case that's built to use the Pixel phone, which is nice because you could use night sight, you can use portrait mode if you get a really good looking fish.
Access,
yeah. So it works with the Kraken Sport Housing, which is a very good name for a sport housing. But that's just one of a number of features in the feature drop. Measure heart and respiratory rate in Google Fit. We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, where you could just point your camera at you and it could see how you're breathing. There also is a cloud backup for the Recorder app, which you should have had all along. I'm just kind of surprised it didn't. But the Recorder app is a very nice way of making, dictating audio recordings. There's a Smart Compose being added to Gboard, Google's keyboard. That's very handy. The Pixel Stand has a new bedtime. I have a Pixel Stand. I don't know why, but I do. Has a new bedtime screen and redesign.
You are such a schmuck.
I'm a schmuck. It's not the best. It's a Qi charger. It's an easel charger. It's not the best, but I guess I'll put my Pixel on it. It's going to now tell me it's time for bed. Wonderful. And speaking of NFTs, there's new wallpaper. This is for Black History Month. In the curated culture section. Actually, it's not for Black History Month. That was last month. This is International Women's Day coming up March 8th.
Women's Day is Monday, right?
Focusing on the strength and transformation of women, illustrated by Spanish duo Cacheta-Yac. I don't know how you pronounce that. Anyway, lots of new stuff for your Pixel phone. Developer preview 1.1 for Android 12 is out now. Some big bug fixes. Chrome 89 is coming out. Google's really been beefing up Chrome. There's a lot of competition for Chrome now. And I think even though it's the number one browser, they're working hard to make sure that they stay
healthy.
Yeah, they stay number one. Chrome 89 will have several enhancements. Chrome profiles are revamped with a new modern page. A reading list, which is something that Safari's had for a while, where you can be on a page, you could tap the star icon in the address bar, and in addition to making a bookmark, which that's always done, you can now say mark as read. I don't think it's mark as read. I think it's mark as read. Oh, maybe it is mark as read. The reading list folder is partitioned by read and unread. Okay, so I guess mark as read, not mark as read. And then tab search is coming to desktops.
And it's not a reading list, it's a read list.
It's a read list, which I guess you don't want to go back to a site you already read. I don't know. That's like more like history, I guess, of the things you've been looking up. And here is the tab search, which has been around in Chrome OS. You might be used to this already.
I've never used it.
Yeah. You could tap the drop-down icon in the top right corner or use Shift-Command-A on the Mac to get a list of pages open across all windows. This is for people who have a lot of tabs. Nirit, are you a pro tab browser user? Do you have 100 tabs at the top?
200.
200. See, I thought, if you'd asked me, I would have predicted researcher, right? Researcher. You open up the tabs, you open them all up, you want to keep them all open. That's what I thought. So this is for people like you. For some reason, I close tabs as I go. I don't know why. Anyway, there are few.
Because you're sensible.
I'm not a researcher. Maybe that's why. Google is no longer selling cardboard. Remember, Jeff, we all came back from Google I/O.
Oh, we were so thrilled.
It was so exciting. We got these boxes that you folded up, and it made little VR goggles. You put your phone in it. Then Google, they gave it away at the Google I/O. Gosh, that must have been 5 years ago, right? A long time
longer
ago.
than 5. Seems like it.
Yeah.
And
the car on the way back, Gina Trapani was making hers. She actually succeeded.
And she distracted you as they went over the Golden Gate Bridge by doing her cardboard.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yep.
Yes.
And we said there's nothing exciting in tech.
Yeah. Then they say there's no new. So, well, it's the story is it's gone. It wasn't exciting enough. They're not going to.
All Google does is kill things now.
They're not going to sell it anymore. It was 7 years ago. It was 2014 when they launched that. Wow. But they killed they've been slowly killing. They killed the VR, the Daydream things.
Daydream
too. Yeah. So
I admit I loved Daydream. Not necessarily for the VR experience, but I would always go and sit in my little armchair over here in my office and just fire up Netflix or fire up Hulu, put on my headphones, and it is just immersive and take me away. And it was a nice way to watch movies just by myself. I had to make sure Kylo wasn't chewing up anything or the hardheads were tearing up something, but it was great. I loved it.
Google has created a new audio codec, a new high-quality but low bitrate audio codec called Lyra, or Lyra. You'll see it on Duo, but other apps soon. It offers natural-sounding voice chat with as little as 3K per second of network bandwidth. Would you like to hear a little Lyra or Lyra? Here, let's play it. Well, that's just music.
Google Duo on Android is using a new audio technology so that people have high quality and reliable audio during their video calls on any network.
This audio technology is called Lyra. It was developed specifically for when you're on a low bandwidth connection, like 2G.
So you can hear, it doesn't sound great, but it's it's usable, and 3 kilobits is pretty low bandwidth. I'm trying to remember. The analog phone network, I think, is a 4-bit network, I think.
It was developed specifically for when you're on a low bandwidth connection, like 2G.
And what you just saw and heard in action was it compressing the sound of my voice in real time to the point that it could run at 3 kilobits per second and still sound like me. This means it could even work on an old dial-up modem operating over a landline. Last year...
So...
Let's bring that back.
He goes on and on. And if you have a Nest Hub, which I do, this made it to the changelog. Look, we don't judge. We just, if it's a change we put in there, there are 3 new clock faces on your Nest Hub. 3, count them 3. And finally one that shows the time and weather together. There's timeless light, timeless dark, and weather. And that's the Google changelog.
Leo?
Yes?
I have found the video of the RUD.
We have video of the RUD.
The RUD.
What's the RUD?
The Rapid Unplanned Disassembly.
The Rapid Unplanned Disassembly of the rocket. Here it comes. This is the RUD.
Like a sort of suspension. So if it was a little faster than expected.
Whoa!
Oh
my God. There you go. There's your methane leak.
There's your methane leak right there. That reminds me of Dad in the good old days.
Boom. Wow.
Dad had methane leaks. It's like that. So there's your RUD. I like that. Did you make that up, John? That's good. Yeah. Is that a technical term that they use?
That is the SpaceX technical term, the RUD.
Wow. Did we talk about, I don't think we did, the Abe Lincoln deep fake from MyHeritage? We did it on Sunday.
That was on Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, was it a deep fake or wasn't a deep fake?
Well, you be the judge. Would you like to see old Abe as you've never seen him before?
I've seen everything using this.
I'm glad you're bringing this up because I'm curious to know if Mr. Jarvis would submit one of his photos from his family.
77 years ago, our ancestors dreamed that we would build our family tree and make fascinating
Abe Lincoln doing ads for MyHeritage.
I use MyHeritage.com
But what's cool about this, and I'm going to close the ad now, is I'm going to find some others because you can use these on your own ancestors. And if you have pictures, let me find this because the Abe Lincoln.
Jeff, you should use Gutenberg.
Yeah, well, Gutenberg. We could reanimate Gutenberg. They call it deep.
Leo, I have mine right here. You ready for this?
Yeah. That's what it looks like. This is what it looks like. So I'll give you an example. There you go. That's exactly it. You've seen them, I see. This is a picture of Grandpa and Grandma. You probably have a picture like that. But imagine. Oh, that's creepy. Now, I've been told by people who've done this to their own ancestors that it's fine for other people's ancestors, but you really don't want to do this to anybody you know.
You do. Yeah.
Imagine that. I mean, so what they do, I guess, is take a real face, take the picture, and then apply the orientation of the head, direction of the eyes to this selected face, and so it is a little bit of a hybrid of a deep.
The best I saw, you know that old lady who restored the painting horribly.
Yes,
that face.
It looks like the potato head that she did of.
Yeah,
it's a little creepy, but it worked. MyHeritage just got sold.
yeah.
Francisco Partners is acquiring MyHeritage for $600 million. Take that for your NFT.
What does MyHeritage actually do?
They're a genealogy. They're like Ancestry.com. They're a genealogy.
Oh, so this was just a PR trick on top of it.
Yeah, it worked. They're from Israel, I should mention.
It's not their heritage. Okay.
They're a profitable company.
Many good companies are.
Lets people test their DNA and then track their family lineage. Actually,
okay, so it's one of those.
Just like Ancestry.com. They actually have 62 million users. This is the second big sale of a DNA company, though. Of course, 23andMe did a SPAC merger with Richard Branson's Virgin Group. So I think this is also a little clarion call that the companies are starting to buy up your DNA. Just a word of note. Did you see the 17th century letters? There were.
I was good. I'm glad you brought this up. I watched an entire hour-long presentation today from the scientists who did this. So these are letters. There's a stock of 3,000 of them that didn't get delivered, and you could not really buy envelopes pre-made until the 1830s. So what people do is they folded the letters up in an origami way and then tucked it in or sealed it with wax. And so they had these letters, and if they open it up, they ruin it. Right. So they used phenomenal. They had scientists from around the world working on this project. They had an origami expert from MIT who supervised the algorithmic creation.
I didn't know that.
2 scientists who worked with him. Oh, it's fascinating.
That's so cool.
They had three people who understand early handwriting. They had 2. It was a special scanner that normally done for dental work. And so they managed to take this little thing and scan every layer of it, understand what the order was of the turns, because it could all be different.
Because in other words, they're trying to read this without opening it, because as you say, opening it destroys it.
And they read the text.
Wow.
So I was mesmerized today watching these scientists and humanists talk about this. Academics, it's just like Neerith, they're the greatest people, right? They actually do real work and real research, unlike us who blather. So they did all this so you can unfold this. Now then, as I say, there's about 3,000 of them because there were two places that had the same name, one at The Hague and one in France, and things got misdelivered. And so they just sat there for years and years and years and years, a whole bucket of them. Then there's other stuff, like when ships would get captured by the British Navy, they would have the bag of mail from the captured ships. Some of those have been untouched, not even taken out of the bags in all these years. So now this allows research to go into all these artifacts and without ruining them, understand every layer, understand the order, and read the text on them in the ink. It's amazing. I was agog.
It's called X-ray microtomography. That's what they used.
There's a paper in Nature that has the details and the images, and it's phenomenal.
Here's another phenomenal story. AI. If you listen to somebody playing the piano, I think probably if you're a piano player, you can imagine their hands on the notes. But this is an AI that extracted the notes from raw audio and generated a video of the hand and the body playing the notes. On the left, the actual player. On the right, a 3D animation based on the sound. It's pretty darn close. From
massive
massive
those actors who don't know how to play the piano.
Yeah, well, from now on, Tom Hanks can do that. Wait a minute, what? This is a Tom and Jerry cat concerto. Can do that too. MassiveTechnologies.ca. I don't remember that one. Here's from Soul. If you watched Soul the other night, I know a lot of you did. Pixar did it the old-fashioned way. Yeah. With some guy with rubber fingers. I don't know how they did it. Anyway, there you go. AI at work.
It's impressive.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
It is actually. Yeah.
Anything? Any stories I missed? There's quite a few. Oh, I thought you would be interested because you live near New York. You work in New York. This is from DNAinfo.com. Nicole Levy, who is the writer, but is writing about the research of a guy named Gboard Zell, who is Craig Neville Manning. I'm sorry, I apologize. I give credit where credit's due. Gboard Zell tweeted it, but Craig Neville Manning is the chief technology officer at Google's Sidewalk Labs. He takes the 4 or 5 train normally in New York City, but he took the 6 train and he noticed something very interesting about the streets on the stops. They mirrored the conversion from Fahrenheit to Celsius. If you know that minus 10 degrees Celsius is 14 degrees Fahrenheit, then follow the New York City 6 train uptown. The
23rd Street is?
minus 5 degrees. 32nd Street is 0.
33rd Street, 32nd, close enough, right?
Okay. Oh, you actually know the streets.
41st, 42nd. Oh,
yeah, you do. Yes. Grand Central Station, right? 51st Street, well, that's close. It's 50th. 10 degrees. 59th Street's accurate. Yeah. 68th Street, that's where Hunter College is.
Hunter College.
That's 20 degrees. 77th Street, it's 25 degrees centigrade Celsius. And the 86th Street, where you can, by the way, change to the 4-5 train, is 30 degrees Celsius. I don't know if there's any meaning to that at all. I don't think we're assuming that the New York subway planners knew that. Okay.
So I got one more question for Neerith, if I may.
Yes.
I'm eager to hear her thoughts about Facebook in Australia and who came out better.
Cover that yet. Yeah, there's some evidence that, in fact, for the few days that Facebook was not referring people to Australian news products, there was a 24% drop in traffic to those Australian news sites. Wow.
Imagine that.
Yeah, that was a classical case of damned if they do, damned if they don't, which I know Jeff used this sentence a lot. because we saw the different reaction, Google versus Facebook, which again is because they have different business model and relationship with publishers. The way it covered was, of course, everything Facebook do is wrong. So no matter what they would choose to do, that was the framing. What I think that is interesting here is that when I spoke with tech journalists about their dependence on the tech platform, they said, well, it's not like, if you're looking for it being the reason why we're tough on them because we're blaming them and we are dependent on them, no, that's not the case. We're actually, in some ways, grateful because they give us a lot of traffic. So Google actually pays our salaries, and like half of our traffic comes from Google. So it's not like that we're mad at Google because of that. So when they were honest, they were actually saying, no, the relationship is really beneficial for us.
So, but Rupert Murdoch's not so honest, obviously. He doesn't want to hear that.
Well, when they're attacking the tech platforms, they're also attacking their competition.
That's right. Wall Street Journal doesn't like Google. Murdoch doesn't like Facebook. Yeah, that's taking money out of their mouth. Not anymore, though.
Yeah, but I think you're damned if they do, damned if they don't. Analysis is right.
It's pretty accurate. Last break, then we'll wrap things up. It's been great to have our guest, Dr. Nirit Weissblatt, Dr. Techlash on the Twitter. She has just written a book called The Techlash and Tech Crisis Communication from Emerald Publishing. You can pre-order on Amazon now. It'll be released March 24th. It's been really nice to have you. Stick around if you want to give us a pick of the week. That's what we do next, and you're more than welcome.
Just something you like.
Something you're interested in. I know we don't want to jump you. Oh yeah, you picked your book. Good. Good thinking. Good thinking.
That's marketing.
We'll talk about that. Of course. What was I thinking? What should I pick this week? Our show today brought to you by, quite literally, by CashFly. It's our content delivery network, our CDN. CashFly has been innovating content delivery since 1999. We've been using them since the year 2010, maybe even a little bit earlier. CashFly now has something new that I think is going to be really interesting for those of you who stream live video. Ultra low latency streaming. And I'm not talking the WebRTC solution you might have used in the past. No. This is latency of less than 1 second. 1 second. There are a lot more perks as well. You can play it anywhere. Their HTML5 player offers easy support anywhere you are with an SDK available for even better mobile support. Whether you need your player to run on websites, applications, mobile devices, whatever platform, they've got you covered. And of course, because CashFly is all over the world, 50 points of presence all over the world, they're the fastest CDN for throughput globally. You get global delivery on their low latency network. Your streams will be streaming quickly anywhere you have viewers, doesn't matter what continent they're on. Scales, well, basically infinitely. Their ultra-low latency platform can deliver video to more than 1 million users concurrently and ingest thousands of synchronous streams. And that ingest is very reliable. It's designed for transmuxing thousands of streams simultaneously with live failover. They can ingest RTMP, RTMPS, SRT, and more to deliver ultra-low latency SLDP and HLS streams. And they can even do that simultaneously. Get a solution that's tailored to you from CashFly, all built on top of their reliable, robust global network with ingest where you need it and delivery where you need it, and 24/7, 365-day-a-year priority support. They're always there when you need them. Imagine less than a second latency, 1 million concurrent streams with 100% SLA. CashFly is up to 5 times faster than other CDNs. They pioneered the first Anycast CDN infrastructure way back in 2002. Their desktop technology automatically finds the fastest route to and from customer origin across their global network of POPs for maximum performance and reliability. We don't care about any of that. We just know CashFly works, and it's worked so well for us for more than a decade. They're also great people. They're helping during this COVID crisis. They're supporting the World Central Kitchen, already donated more than $50,000. I always like to mention that because I'm proud of them. Right now, if you want, you can get a complimentary detailed analysis of your usage trends and current CDN bill if you go to twit.cashfly.com. See if you're overpaying as much as 20% or more for CDN. Find out more about this brand new ultra-low latency streaming platform at twit.cashfly.com. Thank you, and I mean it. Thank you, Cashfly, for supporting This Week in Google. Neerit, I'll give you another plug, techlashbook.com. That's the website. You also have a blog people can read and a lot more. It's really been a pleasure having you. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Dr. Neerit Weisblatt. Or is it Weiss? You like Weisblatt?
Well, in Hebrew, it's Weiss, but in here.
Weiss. Yeah, my Hebrew is not so good. So,
Americans mess up everything.
Yeah, we mess it all up. That's why we can't have nice things.
You can't have nice things, no.
One Jeff Jarvis says, in this deeply researched work, Neerit Weisblatt provides an invaluable record of tech media's mood swing as its portrayal of Silicon Valley lurched from utopian to dystopian. You're thinking about me when you wrote that, aren't you? This is much more than a book about tech's PR problems. Weisblatt's trenchant analysis of the news industry restores nuance to the debate over technology and society. Well, now I have to read it. Now I have to read
it. You do?
Yes.
You do. You'll enjoy it. I guarantee you.
Jeff, a number of the week.
You can skip over my quotes. Well, so this is actually related to our last moment here. Germans have coined more than 1,200 words to talk about coronavirus.
I saw this. In fact, I was going to ask you about this, like Mundschutz mode.
That's one of my favorites. So Mundschutz mode is mouth protection fashion. Mund is mouth. Schutz is protection.
Mode
is fashion.
Or
my favorite is
Gesicht
condom.
Gesicht condom. What does that mean?
A face condom.
It's a mask. A mask. But they have actually a lot of words for mask. I like a
Schnutenpulli, which is a snout sweater, a pullover.
Ah, you found your Schnutenpulli, eh?
A Schnutenpulli. Altog's mask. That's a little boring.
Go ahead.
What was that?
I just said that should be the name of the episode.
You win Schnutenpulli.
Schnutenpulli.
Or Spuckschutz. Or Spuckschutzschirm.
Spuckschutzschirm, which is a spit protection umbrella. We talked about this before. In Dutch, hamsteren is to stockpile items, to hamster items.
Oh, yes.
And then there was, there was one more I liked here. Where was it? Anderthalb Meter Gesellschaft, 1.5 meter society for social distancing.
This is because German loves these omnibus words, right? Where we would have string 3 different nouns, together to form a sentence. They make it all one word, like a big choo-choo train. Yeah, they've always done that. I like that. I think that makes it
1,200 new words.
Yeah, 1,200
one
new
more
words.
Is that a lockdown with multiple extensions is a salami lockdown.
We got one of those.
In slices rather than a single stroke.
We're in a salami lockdown right now.
Salami lockdown.
Unless you're in Texas or Mississippi, in which case the salami's been sliced.
I'm going to put on my Schnutenpulli.
It's a good-looking Schnutenpulli you got there. Buddy, Schnutenpulli. Mr.
Or my Gesicht condom.
I like Schnutenpulli because the word Schnut just seems like such a good word. Such a good word.
Condom is pretty funny, too. A face condom is pretty funny, too. But you're right. Schnutenpulli.
Neerit, do you ever speak Yiddish at all to any of your older family members? Do any of them speak Yiddish?
My grandmother.
Grandma. Because I bet Yiddish would have a hell of a good time with these words.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Schnutenpulli almost is Yiddish. And Pruitt, your pick of the week.
How can I top that?
Schnutenpulli? You can't.
Love it. I saw Mr. Jarvis was tweeting previously about his anniversary during the COVID lockdown, and I found this story on CBS News. It's another COVID lockdown anniversary celebration from the funny Mr. Jim Gaffigan.
Oh, I love Jim Gaffigan.
If you haven't watched him on YouTube, he's been quite a treat to watch this past year.
Can I play this, you think?
You should be able to.
I'll play it.
To go through.
Yeah, we'll just. Oh, there's a commercial first.
He's just been doing a lot of stuff with his family, and
here's Jane Pauley.
Not necessarily doing stand-up performances or anything, but it's just been a nice getaway from
lest we forget
mess.
Yeah, let me play it. Jane Pauley on. It looks like CBS this morning introducing Sunday morning. I mean, introducing Jim Gaffigan.
Here's Jim Gaffigan.
My anniversary's coming up, and I still haven't gotten my wife anything. I know, I'm horrible. But how do you celebrate a full year of living with the coronavirus?
Oh, that anniversary.
I guess it may have been a grueling 12 months, but I'd like to focus on the positives for a moment. Okay, enough of that. No, really. The last 12 months.
Jim Gaffigan. You can watch the rest at cbsnews.com. I really like Jim Gaffigan. He's every man, I guess. That's probably why.
I love Jim Gaffigan. I watch every one of his stand-ups.
I have
so
positive things to add.
Go ahead.
I have a positive thing to add. As an Israeli, I should mention Israel and its vaccination. Now topped almost 5 million people.
You're close to 100%, aren't you?
So in the elders, it's 99%.
Wow. Isn't that great?
And also young people are like 60 or 70%. Like most of Israel are just vaccinated, which is amazing. So they are on their way out.
Nice.
What was your question?
Yet in the hospitalizations and the state of the pandemic? Are you seeing the impact?
Of course, it's going down dramatically.
Yeah.
And the ones that are do end up in the hospital didn't get the vaccine. So those who did are not there.
Oh, Jeff has had his, right? You had both of yours now, Jeff, right?
Yep.
Well, did you have any reaction to it?
Second one was first shot was really weird. It was 2 weeks after I had a delayed reaction. My arm got sore 2 weeks later, and fever and stuff. The second one, the day after, I felt pretty crappy, but I still functioned. In fact, I think I was on the show, so you can debate that. The chat room will.
So that's been a week. So in a week or two, you'll be pretty safe, right? You're pretty good.
Yeah. Now, my behavior is not going to change at all.
You're still going to be the same annoying jerk. Is that what you're saying?
Jerk that I am. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Actually, Steve Gibson has also had both of his, and he did have a strong reaction to the second. He felt pretty ill.
He did
for an evening, and but that's good. Yeah. You kind of hope for that reaction because that means your body is.
You do. I got a little freaked the first shot. I had no reaction. I thought, did I get water or something? What's wrong? But
Aunt and I, as much younger men, will be waiting a while. No, I'm just kidding. I missed it by
Connecticut dropped the age to 55.
I'm moving to Connecticut. Nareet, are your kids old enough to be in school?
My daughter is in online learning in Cupertino School District, which is neither online or learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
What grade is she in?
Kinder.
Yeah, that's got to be really hard for a kid that age, a 5 or 6 year old,
and a parent too.
Yeah, hard for everybody. Yeah. I'm sure you're looking forward to the day when first grade starts in the fall and your kid can go back to school.
Actually, they are reopening, but in a very hybrid, funny way of 2 days a week for 2 hours.
Yes.
So we'll see about that.
That's what's happening in Petamula. In fact, because we have a senior in high school, and he got notice that April 17th, they'll be going in small groups back in his school. He said, I'm not going to do that. What a waste of time. It's another month. But at least he can graduate. He can walk, and they'll have some sort of graduation, which is a big thing.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. Cool. Good.
Yeah.
And everybody's shot by the end of May.
That's the really amazing, wonderful news. Good. We're catching up with Israel. We will have 100% coverage, they're saying, the U.S. government.
Of those who take it. That's the next issue.
Well, I noticed there's a lot less virus denial going on. Have you noticed that? People are not quite so adamant that they're not going to do it.
Everybody knows people who've gotten it, and so I'm not too weird.
Yeah. No, I have a feeling that's
just more old news.
Yeah. How about in your community, because of course,
old news now.
I understand African Americans, black people are very sensitive to this after the Tuskegee experiment. I shouldn't laugh. Horrific public health failure for American black people. So I've heard that there's kind of a natural resistance. Do you still notice that among friends and family?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen it both ways, actually. Pretty split down the middle.
How do you feel about it? You're going to do it?
Speak with back home. I would do it, but I'm not rushing for it because I know there are people that need it way more than I do. I'm in fairly good shape. I take care of myself, and so I'd rather somebody else get it.
Like me, I need it more than you do. But I'm not gonna get it. But really needs it. Teachers, frontline workers.
Oh man,
yeah. So anyway, I hope everybody is getting it the minute they can. My mom has got her first shot. She's got an appointment for the second shot. She's 88, so it was very.
Was it hard? What state is she in?
Rhode Island.
What state is she in?
Rhode Island.
Was it hard?
Yeah, it was hard.
She had so damn different.
Rhode Island's a mess. She had an appointment and showed up, and they said, "Oh, we sent everybody home. It was too icy." I'm 88 years old. I made it. But they said, so she said, they said, nobody's here. You can't get the shot. So she had to remake it. She got it at CVS, which I think is probably what we're going to do. The drugstores in California are giving the shots. So we're looking forward to it. And I'm sure
I was going to drive for the second shot. I was going to have to drive more than 2 hours.
Wow.
To the south part of the state where they had it. And then colleagues of mine's husband was getting it at the same place, so we do this. And the morning she said, "Oh, they switched us." I said, "Oh, they didn't switch me." And I looked at my email; it was hidden. Thank you, Google.
Yikes!
And I would have gone to the wrong place. They just switched at the last minute. But it's pretty amazing, the process.
Yep.
It's heartwarming to get it.
Doc Searles, who hosts our Floss Weekly show on Wednesday mornings, was missing today because he was to get his shot. But I noticed him messaging us. He says, "I've been in line an hour. Now it's an hour and a half." There was quite a long wait. So he's in California. He's in California.
3 hours.
Right? Oh, he went to Dodger Stadium,
Santa Barbara.
There's your mistake.
So, Neeraj, I imagine it's a little frustrating. Is your family can all get it in Israel, and you've got to wait for how long here to get it?
So a month ago, all of them finished the second dose and got the green passport saying they can go everywhere.
So jealous. Are they? Wow. Can you dine in? Can you go to concerts? Can you touch people?
They started shows and things that are just for those who have green passports.
That's wonderful. Where in Israel are you from?
North, Haifa, actually. Haifa. But I lived near Tel Aviv most of my life.
Yeah. I've been to Haifa. We were in Israel last year. I really enjoyed it. Had so much fun.
Back when we could travel.
Back 2 years. Is it 2 years now, John? I guess it is. Yeah. Last year I was sitting here stuck. At the end of 2019 we went, but we had a great time. I really enjoyed it. It was so much fun. And we visited Haifa. My friend that I was mentioning earlier is from Netanya, on the seaside. Very beautiful area. Thank you, Nurit. Dr. Techlash. It's been great having you. The book, techlashbook.com, Dr. Nurit Weissblatt. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon, I hope.
Hope so, too.
Take care. Thank you, Jeff Jarvis. Wait a minute. Nurit had a nice short intro. He's the director of the town.
I'll bet she had a long academic intro.
Yeah, I could have read the long one, but I didn't.
She will. She'll be in a chair soon. Yeah.
The director of the Town Night Center for the Entrepreneurial Journalism at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York, not affiliated with the Annenberg School of Journalism at USC. No way.
I have all the money.
Man. Thank you, Jeff. BuzzMachine.com is his blog, his books. What book would you like to plug today? You've mentioned Gutenberg the Geek.
No, that's okay. I'm just, as soon as I get I've finished the new one. I told you that last week, and I'm now sell it. So what I'd like to plug is an editor who would like a book about books.
Do you have a title?
Gutenberg, the Gutenberg parenthesis.
I like that. See, that's a bestseller. Any editor worth her salt is going to call Jeff tomorrow and say, "Jeff, we would love your book here at Simon & Schuster, Hachette, who else? I don't know who else there is in the world.
Random House, Oxford University Press.
One of them.
It's
just such a natural. How could you? I mean, you put that up, a nice display in the window of the bookstore, the Gutenberg parenthesis, the whole stack will be gone by the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, good. I hope, from our mouth to publisher's ear. I hope they're listening.
Yes.
Ann Pruitt hosts Hands-On Photography. You got another photographer interview coming up?
This week is no interview, but it's still going to be a nice, fun chat and discussion.
Good.
We'll talk about some lenses. But we do have some interviews coming up in the future, and I can't wait to share.
I'm actually mad at you.
And I also want to talk about a book, since y'all are talking books.
Oh, good, yeah.
This is one that I finally got around to reading from our beloved John McWhorter. Talking Back.
Isn't it great?
Black.
Yes. Love it.
I really did enjoy that.
Did you?
I shared it with the family, because the hardheads and we've been having some discussions here and there because, again, they're older and starting to see more of the world and be a little bit more
his hardheads are his sons.
We're just trying to
What do you tell them? Are you of the persuasion, don't talk black, talk standard American English, you'll go farther, you'll do better? Or do you celebrate, as McWhorter does, black English as being a completely legitimate language?
More so along the lines of be you.
There you go.
Be who you are when you speak.
Yeah.
Don't try to speak like someone else. That's my primary message. But I want them to understand, the nuance of black English, because a lot of people just don't know, including myself.
A lot of people think it's ignorant or it's Southern, and it's neither.
Also know the differences.
Yeah.
No.
Right, and it's neither, but also understand, proper conjugation of verbs.
Right. So if you like that, McWhorter has a very good podcast on Slate called Lexicon Valley, and he talks about
Lexicon Valley. I listen to that every week.
Oh, okay. Never mind. It's a good recommendation, isn't it? Isn't it fun? I really like his stuff. Yeah, and actually, it's really Jeff's recommendation because you were reading our bastard language, Jeff.
I think that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, and recommended it. I started picking up all his books, and I love linguists. I love the subject of language is fascinating to me. Yeah. Good recommendation. I was going to say I'm mad at you, Ant, because in one of our meetings you mentioned that Sony had just shipped a new 20mm f1.8 lens, and I ended up buying it. So it's all your fault.
Uh-oh.
But it's fun.
You did get it.
I did.
I knew you would get it.
I love me some fixed primes. I love them. They're just great. And it's a beautiful lens. It's a really nice lens.
It was a great price for it.
And it was very inexpensive. Yeah. Well, for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was very inexpensive. Cost more than a fine watch, but it was. But go ahead and try to take pictures through your fine watch. I ask you. Thank you, Ant. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Nurit. It's been really great having you. This show is a Wednesday afternoon production, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern, 21:30 UTC. I say that only because if you want, you can watch us do it live at twit.tv/live. There's live audio, live video, as you're seeing right here. If you're doing the live thing any time of the day or night, our chat room is always open for you. irc.twit.tv. That's the web interface, but you can also use an IRC client. It's a really great community of people talking sometimes about the things we're talking about, but always something interesting. If you want an on-demand version of the show, you can download audio or video from our website, twit.tv/twig. You can also get it there's a YouTube channel. In fact, Twit has a master YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/twit. And then there are links to all the other show's channels, including youtube.com/thisweekin Google. Honestly, the easiest thing to do, get yourself a podcast client and download it. Subscribe, really. And then that way you'll have it the minute it's available on any platform of your choice. If you do use one of those, iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Pocket Casts, please do us a favor, rate and review. That way people will know to stay well away from this show. Or you can give us a nice review, which would be even better. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on This Week in Google. Bye-bye.
If you like Android with a heavy dose of fun and entertainment, then you're going to love All About Android. It's me, Jason Howell, along with my co-hosts Ron Richards and Florence Ion. Every Tuesday, we discuss the news items that matter most, the hardware and devices that are running Android, and the apps that run on top of them. Plus, we answer your email each and every week. That's All About Android on twit.tv.